Our guest today is Igathe, who is contesting to be Nairobi's governor on a Jubilee ticket under the Azimio One coalition. Mr. Igathe is a former deputy governor of Nairobi and has come from the private sector and has worked in various companies in Kenya. The candidate and his running mate, Professor Kaloki, are campaigning on the platform of Nairobi tunavyoitaka, which according to the manifesto is kustawisha jamii, kuboresha uchumi, kuimarisha mazingira. And welcome to the show, Mr. Igathe. And now let's face the nation.
Thank you very much, Manuel. Glad to be here.
Tell us, kustawisha jamii. When somebody looks at your manifesto, you are speaking about starting a school feeding program in the informal sectors. Do you have a rough idea how much this will cost?
Nairobi has approximately 205 public primary schools, another 200 secondary schools. And to feed the people every day and the children who go to school should be roughly about 200, 250 million
Per year?
Per month.
Per month?
Per month. For a county that under my guidance will be producing 100 million shillings revenue a day. Today it's 30 to 40 million shillings a day.
But let me see if I got you correctly. Are you saying that we can be able to afford to feed school-going children at a cost of about 200 million shillings a month? But you got that, if then I do that calculation, we are looking at billions of shillings every year. In fact, that is roughly almost 25 billion shillings a year.
200.
So it's not 25, but
2.4
billion shillings.
Yes,
2.5 billion
yes,
shillings a year.
You got it right.
Yes.
2.4 billion a year. We get 19 billion from the revenue commission for revenue allocation, from the global fund. And we want to triple revenue collection in Nairobi because it's been very heavy, deep revenue leakage. Revenue leakage happens both in private sector and in public sector. But in government, and especially Nairobi City County, we've been leaking maybe 70% of the revenue and only receiving 30% of the revenue. That's the level of the ratios.
And if you look at, for example, the KRA reports that were done in the last financial year, they say that there was a deficit of about 7.6 billion or thereabout, that the estimates were about 38 billion. What was collected was about in the region of 29 billion or something of the sort. If the county government is already living on a deficit of about 7.6 billion shillings, an additional cost of 2.5 billion in itself, then that's a very heavy load on the county.
Nairobi's under collection of revenue is a function of not delivering services. A county's revenue collection is equivalent to its delivery of essential services. So why should I pay rates if I'm not getting water? I'm not getting electricity. I don't have security. Garbage is not collected. So you can see that, for instance, the whole of Eastlands, if I count all the embakassis, Nairobi generally should have ratepayers people paying rates in Nairobi should be in excess of 2 million, but only 120,000 properties pay rates. If I bring in the Sectional Properties Act, where you go to Kileleshwa and look at an apartment, maybe one apartment block would have, let's say, 20 apartments. Each apartment should be paying rates. Today, it's that building that is paying rates. So what's my point? My point is we are under collecting because we are under serving. So the financing of the school feeding program will be born out of proper collections and proper service provisions. So the revenue we earn is not revenue we shall take to misuse or abuse. It will be revenue which, first of all, will be directed to hungry households, hungry children, especially in informal sectors, and to encourage those children to go to school and not to get involved in child labor.
What then becomes most important? And I'm thinking, as a parent living in Nairobi, is it the food, or should I have schools closer to where I stay, or should I have more teachers in the classroom, particularly so in the school area where the county government is directly involved, which is early childhood education?
Nairobi is a disaster when it comes to lack of proper access to education, access to healthcare, and access to basic food security. We have 5 million people who are only being served by 200 schools, roughly, public schools. So the Nairobi resident has been consigned to taking their children to private schools, which is not a problem. which then means even when nationally we say free primary education, free secondary education, in Nairobi nobody accesses that because the schools are not enough to serve the people. So we have to build schools. For sure, we have to do that with the national government, especially the secondary schools, the primary schools, and we who have the responsibility for ECD, early childhood development centers, we have to do that. Secondly, malnutrition is a reality, Manwa, in Nairobi. Nairobi has a lot of stunted people. Please look around the streets of Nairobi and tell me, when is the last time you saw a 6-foot person coming from the informal settlement? Yani mtu mrefu beyond 6. Nairobi, there was a time Nairobians